Hey everyone, Kathy Iconis here, and today we are going to be talking about what is a virtual bookkeeper. Uh, I am the founder and CEO of QBO Chat and Iconis Group. Iconis Group is an outsourced bookkeeping firm, just like what you have. And then QBO Chat is your resource for QuickBooks Online training, managing your practice, and growing a firm that you want to have. So I always say build your best bookkeeping practice. That's what we're doing here today. We have a lot of training and everything. So today we're going to be talking about what is a virtual bookkeeper. This is part of my intro series. So if you are not signed up for the rest of that, make sure you be on the lookout for it. Okay? So let's get started talking about what we are going to discuss for today. Okay, so what is a virtual bookkeeper? First, we're going to go with the very basic. What is bookkeeping? Okay, then we're going to talk about some of these common services that you can provide, ongoing services, one-time project-based services. There's so many different options, and I am going to touch on several, but there's so many more out there. Okay, and then we're going to talk about what a virtual bookkeeper doesn't do, so that you can start thinking about what kind of practice that you want to develop and what kind of work do you want to do. Because you want to make sure that you're finding the right fit for you. Okay, everyone has a different personality, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So let's find something that hits home with you today, and you can start to think about, okay, what services am I going to provide? How am I going to do all of this? And how I can develop a firm around that. Okay, so first, let's talk about what is bookkeeping. Bookkeepers make sure that the financial records are properly reported. Okay, we keep the books. We utilize an accounting system. In my instance, QuickBooks Online, my favorite. Right, that's why everything is QBO Chat and QuickBooks related. But there's several different accounting systems out there. It's a matter of we are utilizing those systems to help keep the books for the business owner. Okay. We're making sure that we're getting all of those transactions into the accounting system. And the end result is that we want good quality work for financial reports. We want a good quality balance sheet and P&L. Okay. So that is our end goal, is that we are making sure that everything is reported properly. And then within the accounting system can create those financial reports for us. And they're good quality reports that actually provide meaning to the business owners so that they can have a better understanding of what's going on in their business. And you can grow to the point of even providing them insights into what's happening, how they can be getting better, how they can adjust things in their business so that they can reach their goals, and all of this sort of stuff. But it all starts with getting those transactions into an accounting system so that we have good financial records and we can create good financial reports. Okay, so that is the very, very basic of bookkeeping and what we need to do. We need to pay attention to operations, what all happens financially in the operations, and make sure that gets into our accounting system and in the right way. Okay, we want to make sure that we're doing clean, quality work. I'm going to reiterate that over and over again so that it's ingrained in you. Okay, now let's talk about some common services that you can provide. Okay, and I will tell you about the kind of practice that I have built, and I'll tell you that there's 20 million different types of practices that can be built around bookkeeping. Basically, it's because everyone does everything differently. Now, just because you do it differently doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Okay, but at the same time, just because you're doing it the same as someone else doesn't mean you're doing it right too. So there's a difference between knowing what you're doing and having that experience and that training behind bookkeeping and how things operate, and then how you are actually going to do the work and deliver the work for your clients, and what kind of work do you want to provide. You can make a choice between, do you want to have recurring clients and do work for them on a some sort of routine that goes along the way, or do you want to be more project based and just hit on certain areas of bookkeeping and do that for clients, but you're finding new clients every time. Again, this comes back to what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and let's actually focus on those strengths and develop a practice around that. Okay, so common ongoing services. So, talking about just the very transactional work that we do, we can start with the bank feed. Entering or matching transactions into the bank feed. This is just making sure that expenses and deposits, I'm not going for revenue quite yet, and deposits are being reported in the books, and we're keeping that up to date in a timely way. Okay, so what I like to do is this is a very basic service for me that I provide my clients. I touch their books once a week. I tell them what day we're working on their books, and the first thing I do is go into their bank feed and process all of the transactions in there. Okay, so I make sure everything is going into the right place, and so that we're being able to provide more updated financials for them. So with that, there is a value add as to how current are the financials. Are you doing this once a month? Are you doing this once a week? Are you doing this once a quarter? Is the client doing this? And then you're just reviewing stuff and doing other work later. So for me in my practice, very basic. I want to stay in the books and do the work and not necessarily do a lot of checking other people's work, because that's how I've just set things up. Okay. So one, very basic, just using the bank feed to enter the transactions every week or whatever period that you want to do it. Maybe you want to do it daily, whatever. Okay. Then we go into bill management. This is making sure that your clients' bills are paid, right? And it needs to be a business that actually has bills coming in this day and age with so many service-based companies. A lot of the expenses are coming in through credit cards, so they're not really needed to pay bills as much. So if it's a specific business that does have bills and they need to get paid, and we're actually writing checks or we're sending electronic bill payments or something like that to them, then we can get into this process of bill management. I actually utilize Bill.com for that to help me continue to do this virtually. So I don't have to deal with any actual paperwork. Everything comes in electronically, and I go through the workflow with Bill.com and QBO that way so that everything gets paid. So we're creating bills within our accounting system, tracking them, making sure they're entered properly, making sure that we're not double paying bills, making sure everything is in order, and then also paying the bills is something you can do. Or in my instance, I actually don't want to touch cash for any of my clients, so I set up a system where everything is entered, approved, taken care of, and then I hand it over to the client and say, okay, you are now able to pay your bills, and they're all ready to go. And within Bill.com, it's just a couple clicks of check boxes, and then it's able to go out and get paid electronically, or they write the check or whatever happens, so that it's a very streamlined process. Another thing we can do is outside expense management. So there's different things that might happen. Inter-daily vendor transactions. If you are working with an industry where you have a lot of vendor details, vendor expenses coming in. Maybe you need to manage how that happens. You use a different app or entering all of that so it gets applied to different jobs or what have you. There could be a lot of detail work around that. Managing expense report collection and recording that. So if you have a lot of employees that have their own expenses that are they get reimbursed for, maybe you have a different system that you're managing that, making sure everyone's getting paid properly, making sure that you're not paying them for expenses multiple times, for the same expenses multiple times. So you have to manage that risk. And making sure all that gets into QBO properly, reported properly, that the employees are getting paid timely, all of that sort of stuff, and managing all of that and almost managing the people and the workflow with that too, putting in systems in place to make sure that all works smoothly. Then invoice management. This could be a big pain point for some clients where they have specific ways that they need to do their invoicing and they have a lot of invoices to do and they don't have the time to do it or the know-how on how to streamline this process to make it as effective as possible for them. So we can come in and create a process for them and create the invoices. Okay, have our routine that we do it twice a month, once a month. However, making sure everything gets done the way the client wants it, but we can set up a system to streamline it and we can do it effectively, make sure everything's reported properly in the books, and still get those invoices out there so that we can help manage cash flow, streamline the cash flow, because as long as we're creating invoices on a regular schedule, that is going to help make sure we get paid more consistently. Then we can also help with client collections if we want to. I don't do that as much, but there's apps out there that help with that. You could just be calling customers and helping with collections and keeping track of that, or providing information to the owner of like, these are the people you need to follow up on. Different kinds of things that we can do in that arena there. And then preparing any sales tax returns on here. So if we are doing the invoices, and even if we're not doing the invoices and there's taxable sales, we want to make sure that all of that is reported properly on the invoices so that the tax is calculated properly. And then we are also reporting that properly to the sales tax agencies. Maybe they have to report tax in more than one area. There's all these different things that could be happening and we need to pay attention to. How do we have that set up within the books, within QBO or whatever accounting system, and getting that all streamlined so that it works properly, and having controls in place so that we can catch any errors and make sure everything is just like happening the right way. Okay, more ongoing transactional work that we can do outside QBO sales management. So if we're using any other apps to record revenue or track revenue, linking and managing those interactions with QuickBooks can be a big task in itself. If we're looking at the e-commerce space, there are a lot of different platforms there. How do we get that detail into QBO? How much detail do we need to get into QBO? Maybe we need to make sure we have specific sales tax information getting in there the right way, in tracking all of that to make sure that we're accounting for everything properly in the books. But then the question comes down to, do we have systems in place on those various platforms? So maybe they are helping the client increase sales with whatever extra tools that those platforms have. So we're dealing with the interaction between those tools that the client's using and QuickBooks to get the financials entered properly, and what information do we need to pull from that. enter daily sales from a point of sale system. And with those, a lot of times in like retail businesses, restaurants, that sort of thing, you probably aren't entering in all of the customer detail into QuickBooks, but we do need to be entering in all of the sales and the probably the sale types of sales that we have going in. So that kind of detail, getting into QuickBooks, how do we do that? How do we make sure that we're getting the credit card submissions properly? So, Amex might do a deposit, and then Visa will do a deposit. And how are we making sure that all of that stuff is happening? Any cash in the drawers being taken care of properly? All of this sort of stuff we can help the client manage, and it can be a service that we provide them so that there is some oversight in that area so we know everything's working properly. We can do that virtually too, just without, like, we can't actually count the money on site of things, but we can put systems in place to help verify those numbers and that sort of stuff so that we have a really good system in place there. Payroll management. We can run payroll for our clients. What I do is a little different from others. Some people actually go to the point and have their own payroll system that they're using and enter all the information and all of that sort of stuff, and make sure the tax returns are done and all that. I manage the relationship between ADP and my clients. So I will help them run payroll. We're in a very systemized way. And I get their approval that we can go ahead and use their cash. Remember, because I don't like touching their cash. Totally up to you if you want to, but that's just the way I do it. But I'm utilizing ADP to have the technology and everything to deal with all of the payroll side of things, the taxes. They automate and do all of that. I manage the relationship between the two. So I manage getting those payroll runs done. I manage any communication if there's an issue with any of the payroll. And then I also manage the integration between the payroll system and QBO to make sure that we're reporting the wages and taxes and everything properly within the accounting system there. So different ways that we can handle that based off of what payroll system you're using, how involved you are in the payroll process. Are you having to deal with hourly workers and overtime and all these other things that can come into play with payroll stuff? Okay. Then let's talk about creating accounting related journal entries. And this, we get into the world of GAAP. Do we need to do prepaid expenses? Do we need to do accruals? Do we need to deal with deferred revenue or any other kind of deferrals where we're actually calculating how to properly report a transaction every month? So we're doing journal entries and we're tracking all of these calculations, probably in a spreadsheet, maybe in some other system. And then we're creating journal entries within QBO to make sure our financials are reported properly. Again, also any tax adjustments that we need to make, either at the end of the year, quarterly, who knows, whatever is required, those are other adjustments and journal entries we might need to make within this system. Okay. Moving on to other ongoing services. So if you are working in a specific niche, there might be tasks that are related to that actual niche that need to be done as an ongoing service. Let's say construction and you have subcontractors. Maybe there's specific onboarding stuff that you need to do with those subcontractors that is a ongoing task that you provide to your client so that they can help manage that relationship and make sure everything is in good place, right? We have like maybe the insurance covered. Then, maybe you're reviewing their financials to get approving them up front, checking their bids. All of that stuff. But you could see within each niche, it gets down to their specific things that clients do over and over and over again that we can take over for them in a virtual setting and get that off of their desk. We can systemize it, incorporate it into everything we're doing, and provide that as an ongoing service. And considering that, in a construction business, subcontractor expenses are going to end up in the financials, being more involved in that process is not a big reach for what we do and the types of things that we can do to help clients there. App integration and management. You heard already a lot that a lot of different services, the more complicated they become, the more likely we might need to use an app to help streamline that process. And then we kind of become the experts in how does that app work, making sure the app is utilized properly, maybe us actually utilizing the app, and then managing the integration between the app and QuickBooks so that all the financials and those transactions are automatically synced and entered into the books properly. Another thing that I prefer everyone do, again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is a big one for me that I would love for you to do, is provide a month-end close. So there's a benefit to the clients where it gets us ready for reporting and make sure everything's in the right place. So it gives them some sort of assurance that things, confidence in what we're doing. But on the firm side, we're checking our work. We're making sure everything's in the right place. We're really diving in and making sure nothing got lost anywhere, like on the balance sheet where everything always gets lost, or we're being consistent with our coding. All of this stuff, it can actually be an additional service to your clients. Might not be in their thoughts the most valuable, but for us, it's a way to check our work to make sure we are providing quality work. And the quality there is value to your client. Okay? Reporting and consulting. So once we get past month end, everything looks good. What kind of reporting do we want to do for our clients? Do our clients want reporting? I will tell you right now, some clients do not want reporting. They're not ready for it. They're not willing to invest in it, and that's okay. But our job is still to make sure the transactions are entered into QuickBooks so that good financial reports can be generated from the system. QBO can create reports out the wazoo, okay? We want to make sure that we're entering in the information properly so that those reports will be good when they're run, even if a client isn't ready for it, okay? But there's that basic level of making sure everything's done. But then we kind of like go up a level when they want different kinds of reporting. We can start running sales by customer to show them what their split between all of their customers are, like what risk areas, if they have one customer that takes care of 80% of the revenue, that's an issue. How are you going to address that in your business? Looking at different sales by product, different other types of reporting so that your owner can look at that and understand what's happening in the business and make a decision as to if they want to adjust it. Do they need to fix anything, or is everything good to go? And we're just kind of watching it just in case something happens, okay? And we just want it to pop up in our minds when we're reviewing things if there is an issue on that. And then you can go into even bigger, like continuous consulting with your clients, having monthly meetings or more often meetings with them, talking about operations and giving them guidance on running their business and that sort of stuff. It gets into the higher level things where you need to have a better understanding of connecting the very, very detailed transactions into the reports and what the reports, actually analyzing the reports and what they mean and being able to translate that to the business owners. So we can start off with very simple ongoing bookkeeping stuff, and we can grow from there the more familiar we get with all the connections between the financials and all of that fun stuff. Yay. Okay. Now, one-time or project-based consulting or common services that we can provide. This might be a better fit for you. Again, it comes back to that personality. What do you like to do? Do you like dealing with the same clients over and over and over again each month? Is that the kind of business you want? Or do you want some diversity? Do you want to work with a lot of different clients and on a shorter time period and that sort of thing? It's what are you more comfortable in? What seems more exciting to you? So some services that you can provide here is QBO setup, or your accounting system setting it up, or converting it from one system to a new system so that it's ready to go for someone else to take over. Okay. You can do cleanup jobs where things have gotten behind, or things are a mess, or someone did something wrong, things got lost, who knows, getting it all cleaned up, caught up and looking good, nice and neat, so that then someone else can take it on going forward if you want. Or, this could be also a good avenue for you to jump in so that you can take over that ongoing work later. So think about it. Maybe you want to blend between the one-time project-based stuff and the ongoing work. Simple, smaller things, chart of accounts setup, working with a client and helping them revise their chart of accounts so that they can get their reporting. It makes more sense to them. That sort of stuff. Creating custom reports for them so that they can have those saved within QBO, or maybe you utilize a different system, something like that, so that they can manage things. And maybe they just come back to you when things aren't quite working and you just kind of, spiff it up, fix it up. But it's more on an automatic thing once you set it up that they take it back and start working on it. Budget creation. Usually maybe one time a year, or you could actually turn this into an ongoing thing where you're updating the budget every month, looking at how budget versus actual is doing, providing guidance on that. So it can be a one-time thing, a project-based thing, or ongoing work. It all depends on how you set it up, and you're able to work it into a service in your practice. So when we're thinking about all of these services, you almost need to think about turning this sort of service into a product. Okay, what should someone expect from that service? What does it include? What doesn't it include? So that we got it all into a nice box, and then we can say, okay, we're going to put all these boxes together, and those are the services that I'm going to provide you, and it's your package of here's everything that's done. We get some sort of boundaries in place so that we can then also hold the client accountable when we start kind of getting out of that scope and making, doing other things. And that helps us streamline what we're doing in a practice so that we can continuously work on this, make it a better system over, keep on creating efficiencies and things. And that will help us increase our profits there. So think about this as a business. What services you can provide in these buckets or these squares that you're creating, how you're going to provide them, what it looks like to the client, okay, what it looks like to you and what it looks like to the client there on the other end, how you're going to communicate that, and how you are going to set up systems in place so that you can create a business that's processing this stuff and getting more and more efficient on things. So while you're doing a QBO setup, it might be a different client every time. What is your process so that you're repeating that process and you're getting better and better at that process and building a healthy and healthier business for yourself that way. Okay. Now, let's end it with what a virtual bookkeeper doesn't do. Okay. I don't touch paper. There are some people that do. That's fine. We are going to at that point deal with, maybe mailing paper in. But you think about it, virtual means not going on site. So I was saying, like, visit the office is not a virtual bookkeeper. Okay. Um, it's you're visiting the office. You're still doing work there, or you're picking up paper there, whatever it is. Virtual bookkeeper does not need to do it. In this day and age, we have scanners, we have phones that take pictures, all of this sort of stuff. We don't have to deal with paper. We can get stuff and have clients turn things into electronic information as quick as possible. And then we manage all of the electronic information there. Administrative work that would be cheaper if someone else did it in house. So there are times when clients want to add on all of this extra work, right? Thinking that you are, maybe an executive assistant or whatever. When it comes to bookkeeping and understanding the financials, that is a very specialized skill. And we might be able to help with some of the paperwork, virtual paperwork, that's related to a niche or something within that financial realm. But when we get outside of that, like scheduling appointments or all these sorts of things, if a client can go somewhere and hire someone, at $10, $15 an hour in those cases and have better results, or the same results, then those are tasks that we shouldn't be doing. It doesn't go into the realm of having us at a very specialized area within doing the bookkeeping. So, and we don't want our clients to think that we are just $10, $15 an hour people that you can just find anywhere, right? We want clients to acknowledge and remember that we are in a very specialized area of understanding these financials and how to get information into the financials. And it's more often than not something that they don't understand. And so the fact that we are filling in that need of the business that they don't understand really tells you something of where we are and how important we are to the business. So don't cheapen what you do if just anyone, if a college student can come in and do something or a high school student can come in and do something, it's probably not something that you should be doing. The other thing, phone calls. You could probably set up your business so you don't have to deal with phone calls at all. Or you do some virtual calls. You can use Zoom to have virtual calls and video chats and stuff like that. Or maybe you just have it set up where you text your clients more or you use Slack with them. It's a whole different world of communication. There's so many different options. You want to have some communication with them, but it doesn't always have to be a phone call. So you can think outside the box in that area there too. So what we're doing with a virtual bookkeeper is we're getting out of the office, we're doing these financials, handling these transactions in a cloud-based solution or solutions, right? And we're able to provide this work more efficiently. We're able to do it more efficiently. Usually it's cheaper for the client because they don't have to hire someone full-time in-house to do all of this. And that's usually when they get the concept of like, well, I can have them answer the phones too, or if I have to hire someone full-time, I'll have them do all this other stuff as well, so I get my money's worth. But what we're doing is we're transitioning from being a worker or employee to being our own boss and saying, here we are specialists within the financials, and we are going to provide you with this awesome work that is going to save you time and make life easier for you and all of that stuff. So that's how we can create a business around doing this. But we have to do it probably for several different clients, and it's a matter of how much work do you do for one client. You can be pretty close to a full-time employee, or you could be a full-time virtual employee for a client. I wouldn't recommend it. Back to that risk issue of having your revenue all stuck with one client. I would diversify that. But you can have 5 clients, you can have 20 clients, 100 clients, and you're doing different levels of work for them. In those instances, there's a possibility you can have 5, 10, 100 clients and you still make the same amount of revenue. It's a matter of the level of work you do on those clients and how that all works. Okay, so it's a matter of what kind of work do you want to do? What kind of relationships do you want with your clients? How many clients do you want to manage? Do you want to grow your practice so you have employees? How is that all going to work? So all of this stuff starts coming into play when we develop what our practice looks like. Okay, and looking at what services are we can provide. If you just want to provide very low level services, you probably aren't going to be able to make a living with 5 clients. That's probably more in the place where you have to have a lot of clients and manage and streamline those. If you want to do a lot of work for one client, then you probably don't need as many clients to get to a certain revenue dollar amount. So all of those things come into play. And really, this is your chance to also practice on what you're going to be advising your clients on. Think of yourself as your client. What advice would you give them? What do they need to do on setting up their business? What kind of revenue model do they need? How do they need to streamline their systems and their operations so that they're profitable? What kind of profit do you want? And what makes you happy? How often do you want to work? All of this sort of stuff comes into play when we are setting up our practice, or evolving our practice and looking at it and analyzing it in those different aspects. So that is everything I have to say right now on what a virtual bookkeeper is. Okay, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next session.